My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I have with me the beautiful Susannah Rose Stokes. So after serving in 2 combat tours in Afghanistan as a Marine Corps officer, Susannah experienced a spiritual awakening that changed her life forever. Since then, she's dedicated her life as an energy priestess and embodied consciousness guide. She served dozens of people in one-on-one and group ceremonies, guiding them in their own spiritual awakening process. She co-founded House of Metamorphosis, a 508c1a faith-based organization that utilizes the Metamorphosis method, and our community cultivated strain of I can't even say this. Psilocybin. I got it. Psilocybin. Thank you. Known as Trinity, to facilitate powerful personal transformation through retreats and coaching programs. She authored Entheogenerated, oh my goodness, you're testing my comprehension today, a comprehensive research study on existing research of psychedelics and their capacity to create individual and collective change. She is a graduate of the US Naval Academy and speaks Mandarin, Chinese, and Spanish, all in service to creating more peace and I'm sure she means well-being, because my script cut off. So big welcome to the show, Susannah.
All in service to creating more peace and connection in the world. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. I can't believe so my background is a speech language pathologist. So that actually tested me to my core, that introduction. So it's fun.
One of the words is made up. So it's not a quote real word. So it's designed to test you and to test your presence. But entheogenerated.
People are going to go through the bio and be like, what is this word? But do you want to explain where it came from?
I will. I would love to. No, you did a beautiful job. And I'm starting to think I should put a dash between it, because I think then people might be able to read it a little better. But essentially, entheogenerated comes from the idea of entheogens are psychedelics. And it's another word for psychedelics that started to gain sort of more notoriety in the last couple of decades, really not very long. So it's a newer word, but it essentially means the God within. And psychedelics, the word psychedelic means it has much more of an etymology around the psyche and the mind. So it's around like inward focus of the mind. And yes, the mind is a very important part. But to me, what psychedelics do is they give us access to the God within. And the combined word, which I made up, entheogenerated, is generated from entheogens. Basically, this spirit of transformation that we experience as we are shifting from externalizing our God into internalizing and recognizing that I am actually a node of God and God lives within me and through me. So that's what entheogenerated means. And it's the name of the research study that I wrote a few years ago.
I love that. And I love how you've entwined all that together with the background of what the words actually mean. And I felt like I was I just had that moment of like, I think we've all watched My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where he's like, Miller comes from orange, but that's what it felt like, but in a really powerful way.
I love that so much because I love My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. So yes. Thanks for having me here, Catherine.
That's okay. I told you we'd have fun. And, it all
Perfect.
starts with me trying to get through the big words that you put in the bio to test me this early morning
That's
time.
right. I did. I did that just for
um,
you.
thank you. Thank you. So I guess I'm curious in my head. It's like, ask her how she came from being in the Marine Corps to having this spiritual awakening, because it's very different. And I know I've spoken to a few people actually who've had very similar experiences where they've been in the Marines and then something's happened and then they've had to find a new way of life or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people do feel like they're so different. It's almost like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. And growing up, I remember feeling this sense of being pulled in two different directions. One was into the military and into the Marine Corps, which is where my father had recommended that I go. And then the other was toward the Peace Corps, essentially, was really the other. I was like kind of weighing the different options of like, do I go into the military or, and the war related corps, or do I go into the Peace Corps? And a lot of people might find that to be strange. Like, how could one person want both of those? But I think that what I've learned through the process of going through this transformation is that war and peace are very close to each other, just like love and hate. Love and hate, anybody who's been through a breakup and a heartbreak knows that when you can love someone so deeply, you can and really lust after them and have this like deep experience of connection and intimacy. And then the next day, once your trust is broken, then there's this heartbreak and there's this hatred that lives on the other side, and vice versa. Hate can actually lead to love. And so I found that my metamorphosis happened because I experienced war and realized how important peace is. And I wouldn't have been able to really even hold the frequency of peace or access peace in the way that I am now, doing the work that I do and living in sort of the lineage of a priestess, if it had not been for my experience in war. Yeah. So
Yeah, and I love how you frame that, Susannah, because so often we dismiss those negative like concepts like war, and we dismiss hate and we dismiss those things. But truly, if you want to experience full peace, it's embracing all parts of that, right? It's like when people talk about doing shadow work, you have to love those triggers and the flaws, and you have to experience hate sometimes. And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It just means, like you said, to go into that war zone and to be in that war situation and experience the energy there made it easier for you then to feel the extreme contrast the other way and step into that peace vibration.
amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's exactly what we're doing. And we're also embracing, right? You're really embracing and integrating all of the depths of the shadow. And war is collective shadow. It really is. It's like the collective of hatred and othering and separating and dividing and oppressing. It's all of that in one place. And to hold collective peace, my experience is that you have to experience war, that you really can't hold the frequency of collective peace, because also collective peace, what I've noticed is getting into a sense of peace, both within my individual self and then to hold a community in peace, is it requires you to go through boredom and a few other feelings that are highly uncomfortable to people. And boredom is like the first gateway. It's that first doorway. And because most people are very attuned to chaos and they're attuned to smaller versions of war within ourselves and fracturing of our internal worlds. But in order to get to peace, you really have to experience the discomfort and hold the discomfort of like, ooh, I'm going to sit with nothing for a moment and just be in nothing.
I love that you've brought this up, because So often we talk about meditation and people think you have to do, but it can be just, like you said, finding that boredom and that peace. And that's when that divine inspiration has. And even, with kids, as being a mum, this thing about our kids can't be bored. It's like, no, let them be bored, because when they're in
Please.
boredom, that's when the creation happens, and that's when you see them come up with these imaginary. And it's so funny because my son's at this age where he'll go, I'm bored, this is boring. I'm like, okay. And I'll just say, like, I don't even say it's not, or if it's whatever, I'm like, okay. And then within 5 minutes, he's off doing his own thing anyway. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, like when you let them be bored, how it creates. And it's the same for us as adults. We have to be bored and have that, like you said, that nothingness to be able to
Mm-hmm.
create something, because you can't create something from, not having that space to do it as well.
It's deeply important. You have to experience this spaciousness. And in that spaciousness, because our systems are so attuned for constant action, constant doing, and in some ways, constant conflict, right? There's some friction that you're experiencing. So I'm feeling a friction within my body. So I'm going to look at my phone to ease that feeling of friction or to match that feeling of friction. What could I do if I just sat there and stared? And what would happen to my body? And eventually, once you get past that initial feeling of like, oh, I'm doing nothing. And usually there's a lot of thoughts that come up around that are rooted in a sort of toxic overproductivity voice, right? That says you're being lazy or you're worthless or you should be doing something. You should be cleaning or being productive, that this is not actually productive. And then what you find out is that being is the most productive thing you can do.
Because when you were sharing that, I had this beautiful example pop up in my head. So I used to run a company, and I used to kind of run my life 7 days a week kind of thing. And then when I sold it, my naturopath at the time, he goes to me, don't fill the void with more things. Because it was almost like he knew I was going to go. Exactly. He's like, don't fill the void with more things. Don't keep trying to pick everything up. And then when I shifted into, doing what I'm doing now, which is like coaching and podcasting and healing and all these sorts of things, I defaulted back to that old mode, like, oh, I've got to schedule every moment of my day. And then I almost ended up in burnout again. But it was like, because I had a coach by this point, he's like, whoa, you need to rest. And I'm like, what? He's like, you need to rest, stop everything and rest. And I'm like, okay. So I went to have a nap that afternoon and I slept for 6 hours because that's how much I'd run my body ragged. But it's like giving ourselves permission to be able to do that, which I feel someone has to tell you. Often someone has to tell you it's okay to rest, because we need to hear it from someone else to validate that feeling in ourselves until we learn to trust it ourselves.
Yes. And that's, I would liken this a lot to the forgetting of the divine feminine. We've forgotten her. We've built so much around the masculine, and my version of it is the immature masculine, that we've built it around the adolescent, doing, productive, constantly going, right, machine of the immature masculine, which is trying to prove his worth. When in fact, the divine feminine energy, and in many ways, the divine masculine energy, is to sit back and to enjoy and to recognize that actually we can exist in being, which is the yin energy, right? We embrace that yin energy of rest, that being in rest is doing something. You are regenerating your body. You're regenerating, you're creating spaciousness to allow source energy in, and it's encouraging a whole process of co-creation with universe and divine. But you can't do that unless you are willing to face some of the collective conditioning around our, productivity.
Productivity.
Productivity. Oh man.
I know. So I feel like this is a nice segue into what pulled you to psychedelics and the word I can't say.
Yeah. An NPO generated. Well, entheogenerated is maybe that'll be the title of a book one day, but the work really is, ceremonial experience with psychedelics, and ultimately it's attuning conscious entrepreneurs and leaders who are wishing to build the new earth. And that's what we do at Metamorphosis. But what got me there was an incredible amount of discomfort, right? I experienced a massive amount of resistance. I often say that there are 3 phases of awakening. And the first is resistance. And by the way, this happens multiple times in your lifetime. It's not just like you did it once and then it's over.
Yeah, I say round
It's
1, round 2, round
yeah.
3, round 4. Yeah.
I like that. Yes. Multiple rounds of this process of awakening. And because healing and awakening is cyclical and it's not linear. And so we start with resistance, and that's really what drew me to psychedelics. Was I was feeling resistance everywhere across my whole life. I was physically feeling an incredible amount of illness and sickness and discomfort in my body. I stopped being able to really use my bladder properly. I became incontinent. I was getting urinary tract infections and pelvic infections and kidney stones and all sorts of things that were clearly mucking up and clogging up my whole sacral system. And then I was experiencing discomfort and an issue in relation. And my sister began to try to take her life for a period of time, which was sort of externalizing and creating a mirror for a lot of what I was going through in my life too, was wanting to harm myself, but never having the courage to even really talk about it or admit that or even go toward it. So all of this kind of felt like it was coming in around me, and I was escaping. And I would say that at the beginning, it was an escape. I was trying to walk away from real healing and just feel good. And with that, I found MDMA and then LSD, and then eventually started to work in more ceremonial containers with mushrooms and with things like bufo, which is 5-MeO DMT. And that progression of going to it for relief at first, right? And escaping the pain, then basically said, hey, Susannah, like there's so much more here. It's not just about play. It's not just about escape. This is some real medicine, and it can really help you if you are willing to learn.
Yeah. And I guess that's the mindset going into it as well, not expecting it to, as you went in originally, because you just want a relief from the pain, but then seeing how sometimes working through the pain is your journey in itself. And, that is part of your shadow, and that is part of the things you have to get through to get to the next step, to get to the next evolution of your soul. Because if you always stay in that happy state, you're never going to evolve. This is what the people like, people like, oh, I want my life to be blissful and joyful. It's like, it will be, but you still have to experience the lows. Otherwise, you're not going to understand the highs, because it's only once you go through those lows and go through those extremes that then you can go, wow, look at my life. It's amazing, and yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen to that. It's the polarity that allows us to even experience the felt difference of the joy. And of course, then there are some really brilliant teachings in faiths like Buddhism that talk to us about just taking the middle path and recognizing that both the highs and the lows are equally important to our growth and our process, and to see how unattached we can be to any of it, right? Like I'm not grasping for the high. I just experience the high and I recognize how good that feels and how pleasurable that feels. So I want to move more toward it over the long term. But if I also recognize the importance and the depth and the grit and the felt embodiment of the lows, then I will continue to raise myself toward toward those, higher frequencies and be able to feel them.
Yeah, and I think the more people don't realize, the more you push pain away, the more you push away those experiences that you deem that you don't want, rather than asking, what is it teaching me, or what is it here for me? Like, why is it here for me? And the more you keep pushing it away, the more it's actually going to come back to you like a magnet, because that's what happens. The more you push it away, the more it's going to come into your field. And it's about being curious about it and being open to explore it and just accept, I think of when I went through my reawakening, the amount of things I did for healing, like especially because I came here to like repair a lot of past life trauma and things like that. And I just did it. And I remember I was so sad for I think a good week, and I messaged my mentor and I said, I'm so sad. This thing just happened, and it was even just the sadness that people could be that way, like people could act like that way towards another humans. And I cried and I cried and I cried, and she's like, you just got to let it out. Just keep crying. You like need to mourn the loss. And once I stepped through that and got on the other side, it was like this massive weight had lifted. But if I'd pushed that down and not wanted to do that and left it how it was and just went, I'm not, dealing with this, or I'm done with this, then I wouldn't be who I am today. But I also wouldn't have shifted that pattern that I needed to, and it would have come back another way.
Yes, yeah. And this is the nature of the heart intelligence. So many of us have lived lifetimes in this lifetime where we are strengthening the muscle of the intellect, which is the brain mind, right? That's the upper mind, which is a highly capable and magnificent thing, right? The brain is a wonderful tool, but there's so many things that it's not great at. And we focus so much energy there, and we often forget about the heart mind, which I personally believe is the key to our next evolution as a species. And the heart mind, what lives in the heart mind is the whole concept of emotional intelligence. And it's well beyond a lot of what the packaged emotional intelligence teachings are today, right? Like they're like, oh, like know what your know how to label your emotions and the emotions wheel. That's a start. Like that's a very good beginning, but that is just scratching the surface of the brilliance that our emotions bring to our life. And what you're describing is what we call in metamorphosis is completion. When you go through, right? Not around, not over, not under, not pulling away, right? When you go all the way through it, when you face it directly, and you go all the way through that experience to the other side, which can sometimes be done in 90 seconds. It can be a very quick, rapid process. You experience a sense of completion and a spaciousness on the other side that, like you were describing in like our karma or things like that we come into this lifetime with, we get to then move on from that lesson, and we no longer need to fear it or want to avoid it because we faced it directly. But that often happens through the intelligence of the emotion, and most people have forgotten how to fully process and complete an emotion.
Yeah, and it's so true because it's reflective in so many aspects of society, like, oh, your body's in pain, take something to numb it, rather than going, all right, why is this pain here? What's it teaching me? Why has my body got to this state that I have constant pain? It would have been the same for you with everything you went through with your sacral area and your UTIs and your kidney stones and all those things. It's like, hang on, what have I suppressed so much that my body's gotten to this point that it's constantly trying to shift this energy? And my coach said to me this amazing thing, which sits with me, which is you have to give gratitude for the disease. You have to give gratitude for what's happening, because that didn't happen. You die. you need to
That's right.
allow,
Yes,
yeah, you need
that's right.
to allow that to happen and explain
Mm,
and explore it and be curious about it. And like you said, not avoiding it, but going through it and going, okay, on the other side of this, I know there'll be something. So even for me personally, when I go through things in my personal life that are hard, I can already see the stories because I'm a storyteller. So I can already see the
yeah.
stories coming together that I'm going to use to help empower other people when they get stuck in
Mm,
that situation.
mm,
And
mm.
so for me, I'm like, okay, thank you for this experience. It's crap. I'm not going to say it's amazing, but it is crap
No.
and I'm feeling it. But at the same time,
Mhm.
I still have this level of calmness through the whole thing because I know there's something better on the other side. And I know things need to break down in order to create something new as well.
Yeah, and I love this because it is in this willingness to go deep into our shadows and then to feel the felt sense of the crap move through our body system in which that allows us to embody as a human, as like a physical human being. Because when we avoid, we're trying to pop out into our spirit, right? And trying to get back out into that place of painlessness, of no physical body, no 3D experience, right? But you came here to be a human. You came here to
Mm-hmm.
go through all of those difficult experiences for your own progression. So why in the world would you avoid them? And
I,
I'm
I
speaking, when
always
I say that to you, I say that to myself too. I'm like, Susannah, why are you avoiding this? You came here for
no,
this. This is the point.
it's so true, Susanna, because I sit there and I go, I don't want to do this shit again. I'm like, I'm going to
Right.
live through it now. I don't want to reincarnate and have to deal with all this shit in a different way and deal with these lessons. I'm like, nah, I'm going to embrace it. As hard as it is, I'm going to embrace it and I'm going to walk through this pain and I'm going to deal with it, whatever it might be.
Oh. And the more we do that, the more connected to divine and spirit and the more centered we get. Like you're speaking to that place of this center within us that is this place that's behind the human primal, like like feel better, feel better, feel better, right? The grasping for something that can take me out of this pain, because the spirit and that centered highest self pillar of knowing quite literally knows it's good for us. It knows, and I personally access that through my heart. Like my heart tells me, hey, Susannah, I know that on a human level, this seems awful and this is terrible and it's a total shit situation, but it's worth it because on the other side, whether it's in this lifetime or another, you're going to have this tool or you're going to have this skill set. And I would also say a lot of things that I talk about because I see it often and it's been in my own family is what happens when we do avoid and we don't go back to that place of that center to recognize why I'm calling in this difficulty is addiction. And it's what ultimately we're trying to plug in. We say, well, I just want to feel a little bit better. So I'm going to plug into this thing and get a little bit of the energy from it. And then I'm going to feel good. Okay. That'll sustain me for 24 hours, or that'll sustain me for a little bit. Maybe I'm just going to scroll on Instagram a little bit and then I'll have a little dopamine hit, right? And ultimately that creates a pattern in our body of craving for that external thing versus having our own consistent source and our own consistent method of coming back to center. Yeah.
And I feel it's really beautiful you brought that up, Susanna, because, with psychedelics, if you'd misuse it and have that intention just to keep going back to get that hit or get that insight rather than learning to trust your intuition, like with anything in the spiritual realm, it's always a tool, and how we use it can be misused or can be used to elevate you or can be used to as a shortcut, but spirit doesn't like shortcuts, right? Spirit won't let you have
No.
that shortcut.
No, you are not going to cut those lessons. There are definitely ways of evolving and growing into more swift learning, but
Yes.
you're right. Shortcuts don't work. And because that's not the point, right? You actually want to take the scenic route because the scenic route ultimately leads to a deeper integration of understanding of whatever that karmic lesson is. And one of the ways that we at Metamorphosis kind of ensure that the addictive grasping energy doesn't come into our containers is we often say that we're not using these medicines, we're partnering with them, and recognizing and honoring them as another species, as another being, another consciousness that I am consciously ingesting into my body. And that's how I work with it, and or him or her, depending upon the strain and things like that. Sometimes they're gendered, but ultimately I am partnering with another being. And in a lot of ways, it's like my own internal coach. And I certainly wouldn't use a coach or a person in my life who's a mentor of mine, right? I'm not using them. I'm just engaging with them and learning with them, and we're learning together. And then also recognizing that there needs to be not only the experience, the peak experience, which there's a lot of peak experiences out there, right? Like you can go and escape your reality and go to Jupiter in your mind if you want to. You can. Or you can have an entire process in which you have a very intentional focus of what you are doing in the preparation. Then you have the experience, and then we integrate it into your day-to-day life, which looks like the mundane steps of waking up every morning and choosing to have tea instead of coffee because you know that one of your addictive tendencies is caffeine.
Yeah.
It's a huge shift, but it also requires actual steps to be taken to make changes.
Yeah, and that's such a beautiful summary, because so often we forget that we have the power to choose to change so much in our life, but we will blame it on other things. We will get lost in other things. Like you said, doom scrolling can become an addiction so easily because it's designed that way. It is 100% designed that way, but you just have to be conscious enough of it. And I know because I'll go on there to post, especially on Instagram, and I'll be like, oh, what's this? Oh, what's it? And oh, hang on, pull yourself back out. And it's just being really
20
aware of
minutes
that, right?
later.
I know, but I'm like,
Yeah.
and it's funny because I consciously have to pull myself out of it, because I go on there with the intent. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my post. I'm going to check my chat messages. I'm going to do my connections, and then I'm going to get back out. And if I don't do that and set that intention, then that's when you get sucked in. And like you said, it can be an addiction to avoid other things happening in your life. You know, if there's a task, you keep putting it off. It's like, oh, I'll just go on Instagram and do some things there for my social media account, and then you get sucked back in again. And I think I feel that that's yeah, exactly. And I feel that's the whole knowing yourself. And the more that you do this work and tap into your heart intelligence, the more you know yourself. So, those addictive behaviors will still be there, but you can catch yourself in them and pull yourself out quicker, rather than getting stuck down a doom scrolling spiral. And an hour later, you're like, oh, I didn't get anything I needed to get done.
I
So,
actually didn't do what I came here to do. And I mean, this is the beginning of ADD and ADHD, right? Where we then get like sucked into that and then sucked into that. And I would say the only reason I have these examples is because I've done all of these things. Like
same.
I am the worst offender of all of the addictive things. I mean, I've been in codependent and addictive relationships. I've been with humans, with substances, with all sorts of different external things. But it took me looking at my shadows of what am I reaching for pleasure, for like a moment of dopamine or oxytocin or closeness, or usually we're looking for connection in some way. So what am I doing? And then how do I start to create distance between myself and that thing? And for me, integration has looked like hiring people and robots to do things for me. Because if I do them, I will likely get stuck in the little, spiral of, oh, like,
Nuances.
let me go.
Yes.
Yeah, all of it. But now we have these brilliant things called AI that are helping us with, we have an automatic system that now posts things for me on Instagram. So like, I don't actually have to go there too often, but when I do, it's a little more of an intentional process. Instagram also has the timers. So it gives me like an allotted time every day. And it's like, once I reach that time, it's like, your time is up, you got to go. And then the same thing with substances where I'm like, okay, how do I hold myself accountable for this? And that looks like a lot of very, very deep shadow work and observing myself and recognizing, where am I trying to seek external validation or love or connection that I could really give to myself through prayer and meditation and stillness and peace.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. And I feel like we could talk all day, but we need to start to round this up. So if I ask my guests that come on the show, Susannah, if you could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, ever since I was a little girl, the thing that I would wish for on my birthday, when you like blow out your candles, was not world peace, but world tolerance. And if I could really just instill a sense of tolerance in each person, where we are tolerant of and understanding of, we have grace for other people's experience, so you have spaciousness for them, I think that would be a huge step toward a more comfortable and peaceful world.
That's beautiful, because everyone's in their own journey, right? And you need to respect that and allow them to walk their path that they need to. Yeah.
And I need that too, right? Like grace, not only do I need it for myself, but also like producing and having an amount of grace for the people around me, and just knowing that they are walking their path in the best ways they know how is a daily practice.
Yeah. So beautiful. And if people want to come work with you or find out more about your organization, Susannah, where can they go?
They can go to metamorphosis.ventures, and we have monthly live masterclasses and retreats. We have a big event happening in October in the United States that we'd love for you to come to. And then they can also follow us on Instagram, if you want to go into the Instagram realm, at Embodied Metamorphosis. But we are doing a lot more newsletter type of content, because we find that that's really like maybe the least addictive these days, because it gives people the option of opening it and connecting with it if they wish. Yeah. So so come to our website and sign up for our newsletter.
Beautiful. And I'll make sure to put all those details in the show notes, so if anyone's looking for Susannah, they can find her. And thank you so much for spending your time with me and sharing your journey and having fun. Because life's not meant to be serious.
That's right. We got to have a lot more fun, a lot more play. Thank you for having me, Catherine.
Thank you, Susannah. All right. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.